Welcome to the Infinite Podcast. My name is Melissa Ruiz Vasquez, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos Andres Ruiz. How are you today?
Today I'm doing good. I had a breakfast with an old friend of mine, and I'm still trying to process all the stories that he told me, which were I don't even know how to describe him still,
Mm.
but he's gone through some really difficult health, and I was uh I was what's the right word? It's not confused, it's not captivated, it's not I felt amused maybe,
Amused?
or in awe,
Ah.
or in,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, by some of the stories,
Mm.
which I had never considered, uh, how a human can go through some of that. We could get into some of those stories at some point, but yeah, it was like the stories were out of like the normal day-to-day life that we are so stuck in normally. So it like took me out of the regular uh, state of mind, and I went to like the universe that he's living in, which is always good to like keep yourself off balance when you think that everything is just mundane.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so I am in like a wondering moment with that, and then other than that, good. Like I love when I get haircuts.
Mm.
Um, Let me know what you think. I was trying to figure out what this haircut is called, and sometimes I take, if you're a guy, you know, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I try to bring a picture to the guy. His name is Mike, best barber in Melrose, actually in Boston, uh, and so I show him a picture, and then we were trying to like, no, this is like, no, but your hair is not this texture or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then today I was just like, bro, you know what I like better than I do. Just do your thing, and he killed it. Um, and so it looks good. At least I think.
It
Um,
does.
Thank you.
I can confirm.
And there's something about like knowing you got a haircut. You wake up like feeling a little bit better. That's my vain side.
Mm.
Um, does that answer your question? How am I?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've had a good morning, got a good workout in, got time to read, got whatever. Time to talk to friends and stuff. Recently, I started thinking about the equivalent, I think, from because guys get haircuts way more often than girls do. Because, well, typically, because we have long hair. Like, I haven't
Hmm.
got a haircut in months. But when I get my eyebrows done,
And they look good. You feel.
I feel
What do you feel?
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Like, it changes your face, it changes everything. And I feel like when they're not done, it's like, eesh. I swear it changes my eyes somehow. And it's like, my eyes are the same, for sure. It's
Uh-huh.
not like they do anything to your eyes. But it, like, shapes them so much more that I'm like, I'm a new person now. Like, you walk with so much more confidence, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
But I assume that's how you feel with the haircut. So.
yeah. Speaking of confidence, we work with athletes, and one of the biggest pain points is athletes struggling with confidence. And part of the reason we do this podcast is because we feel that there's three specific principles that, not just with confidence, but with just the totality of your ability to show up to spaces, which will be affecting your confidence. Um, we decide to focus on relational intelligence, character development, and emotional intelligence. And uh, I'm trying to put them into that. I'm trying to put haircut into that, and because it affects your emotions,
Yes.
uh, and relationally, you probably feel that you look better to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like I get the feeling that when I notice that a female has done something, and I say like, hey, you got a haircut, something brightens up. And I don't know if that's a relational part of things that stirs stuff, and then and being seen and like, oh, they noticed, um, and then how would it land in character development? I think just taking care of yourself. Like, so often, like we feel that uh, spending money on outer stuff is like if you're gonna get somebody a gift, but like for me, it's like it's a gift for myself, and being able to have the discipline and the character to take care of Andres. So yeah, anyways, so those are the three that we talk about, but I do feel that we can find every area of our life and input it into these three, and it will help us maneuver how to bring out the best human expression of us. So why don't we go into our warm-up today? I know you love our warm-up.
I do.
If you had the talent to play any professional sport, which would you choose?
Oh no, why don't I get the reverse Uno card? I want you to answer it first. I guess the easy one is, like, the easy way out is to say not Colombia. The easy way out is to say soccer.
Okay. Is the easy way out bad?
No, I mean, yeah, I definitely would have played pro soccer.
Mm. Because?
It's a sport I love, and if you can play a game for the rest of your life and get paid for it, make a living that way, sounds pretty nice.
Mm.
What about you?
What about
what profession, if you had the talent to play in any professional sport, which would you choose?
soccer?
Mm-hmm.
The real name, football.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is. If it was 7v7,
Yeah.
I would love that type of environment. I don't know who created soccer, but the 11 against 11, we just decided to agree that that's the way to go. But I feel like 11 against 11 is too big of a field, too many players, less touches. The older I get, I always tell people who ask me if I still play, I'm like, yo, honestly, if somebody would have convinced me that there's a scholarship out there for 7v7 or 5v5, I would not have gone for this 11v11. But it's because at the highest level, that's the amount of players. But I think when I think of the most fun that I've had, it hasn't been 11 against 11. And there's been like some really good 11 against 11 that I've been part of, whether youth or college. But yeah, no, like there's nothing like a smaller and the goal is closer and you don't have to run as much to go and defend again. And the combinations, like the chemistry is a little bit more consistent. So I would say soccer, but it would have to be at most 7v7.
Yeah, I think that would just make it faster paced. Like,
Mhm.
it comes back to it just being quicker and, like you said, more touches on the ball, and it's a tighter space.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun.
11 against 11 is, I think it's too big to play with players that haven't fully, that sounds arrogant of me, but that haven't broken down the whole field into, there's a specific set of solutions in this part of the field and in this part of the field and in this part of the field. Some overlap, but in order to have a good 11 against 11 and feel like it was fun and competitive, like you would have to train and be with the same players for a week of training and more than a week of training for the fullness of that game to be, for you to experience the fullness of what that game can feel like. I think you need to spend time with the 11 and 14 or 18 players, because if not, it's just the dimensions, space versus amount of players versus whatever variables of the game make it so that it's not going to be as enjoyable, simply because you can't just show up to 11 against 11 and as a team enjoy it. So that's just my point of view. So what are we going to talk about today?
I thought we could build off of what we talked about last week. We kind of ended on journaling, and that impact that it has
Okay.
not only on you, but you especially know the impact that it makes. But talking about diving more into what that does with our emotional, relational, and character.
Mm. So you were having a conversation today with someone about why it's so difficult for you to journal. uh, why is it so difficult for you to journal? Or what did you learn today about why it's so difficult for you to journal?
So, um, there are a few things I learned. There's a few things that I kind of reiterated to myself. Um, but remembering, it always comes back to instant gratification,
Mm.
since it's a moment where I have to sit down and just be with myself, and like whatever I write down, like it's good and well, it's fine, it's great. I said a lot of words there, but I'm not seeing an immediate outcome. I'm not seeing anything
Mm.
like, all right, if I cook, I get food. That's
Mhm.
an immediate out.
Yeah.
But if I write, it's like internal work.
Yeah.
It's less external work. And I think my brain wants more external work to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of feeling like wasted time, and that makes it a little difficult, especially in times where I sit down and I'm trying to do it out of the discipline of doing it, but I don't necessarily know what to write, what to think, what should I reflect on. Um, so if I'm sitting there, it feels even more like wasted time because I'm just staring at a blank
Mm-hmm.
piece of electronic paper.
You don't. So when you journal, you just write to what or who or.
Normally I do write to God.
Okay.
Just it feels easier than trying to talk to myself.
Yeah.
I'm constantly talking to myself in my head throughout the day. I guess
Mm-hmm.
just thinking.
Yeah.
But that for me, I have a lot of for me personally, when I'm in the shower, that's where I get so many thoughts that flood my brain about the day,
Mm.
what's happened already, like reflecting on what has already happened in the day, whether it was before or like as in like yesterday or that
Mhm.
morning, whatever.
Why in the shower? Do you know? Just.
Because it's a space where I'm forced to only be with myself.
Mm.
I can't grab my phone. Well, I could, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's my choice. But I can't do anything except get the shower and I'm just with myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm alone with my thoughts, and that's when you start kind of reflecting more. And it's so frustrating for me personally.
You can't put it anywhere.
I can't put it anywhere. And I'm like, that's a good thought. I'm going to write that down when I get out the shower. There's so many steps before I can sit down and try to write something that I lose it. I never remember. The closest thing sometimes, especially like if you're home, I can walk out and be like, I just had this crazy thought. Like, have you noticed that whenever I get out the shower? So that's the closest I can get. And I think it helps me if I vocalize it, then I can go write it down after, because then I've said it twice now, both in here and out loud. So for me, it's difficult because of the fact that I feel like I'm wasting time, and sometimes I don't really know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my, I guess, the closest things to like epiphanies that I get are when I'm not sitting down ready to write something.
Mm.
So
I've never thought about this until now, but you're not the first person that says that they get their deepest or their epiphanies in the shower. And I wonder if there's a connection between being naked and being naked.
Dude.
Because when.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Because I don't know if our subconscious activates, but there's something that. What?
That's just wild to me. Maybe it's not wild to anyone else listening, but I think that's crazy. And
How
then
so?
I started laughing because my brain took it as like, what if I wore clothes in the shower? I feel like in a bathing suit.
Yep. Then you would have less good thoughts. um, yeah, I think really really what unlocks it for me when I'm journaling is that I've given myself permission to be the most unfiltered version of myself. And I feel that we filter ourselves so much throughout the day that like epiphany or good ideas come in, but it has to go through so many filters that it doesn't fully get there. And and I think an outcome of journaling is not necessarily what comes on the other side of that journal entry, but it's a moment of unfilteredness,
Yeah.
which then uh, declugs. I can't get out of my brain with my friend, and there was a clog in his heart, and they had to remove that for there to be uh, blood to pump to the heart and for the heart to continue to work, and without removing, and so it got to a point that they needed to like vacuum it out.
Like a clot.
Yeah, but it was too risky that if they hit it and it exploded, it would go to his brain,
Yeah.
and then they would lose him. So then they came to the realization that he needs a new heart. And so I'm just thinking of like, we are so filtered that like all these filters are actual blood plugs or idea plugs. And we have to find a way to remove them so that like these, for me, godly ideas or high forms of creativity and ways of thinking can flow. But we just have to think about rent, and we have to think about sending emails, and we have to think about family time, and we have to think about making lunch and making dinner, and all of these things are part of what interrupts our thinking. And so what makes it for me so unique is that I get to be unfiltered, which the reality of unfiltered is my naked thoughts. And I really think that there is some subconscious part of us when we're naked physically. It gives us permission to also be more naked thoughtfully. But I had never thought about that until this moment.
Yeah. I think also a big part of that being like naked while you write, it forces you to progressively, I think, because it's not immediate. It makes you accept the way you think, you process, how you really are authentically. Because when you're doing it externally, maybe I'm sugarcoating the things I'm saying so that you accept me. But when you're writing it down and just being real, you have to accept that. And if it's something you don't want to accept, then how do you change that? So it's giving you two routes, but only by writing it down. Because I feel if you're thinking about it, like if I have a messed up thought, I'm like, no, let's change that thought. Or, oh, I'm so like.
You can almost deny the fact that you thought it.
Yes.
When I write it down, I can't deny it, and I'm facing it and what it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And I feel that even when we think of physical nakedness, there's a sense of guilt and shame and embarrassment that we feel if we were naked in public. And I don't feel that there's a difference with regards to our thoughts or what we say. I think it's almost like we've conditioned ourselves to filter everything through, will this make me feel guilty, shame, or embarrassed, my idea? Yeah. And so if we are never giving ourselves the opportunity to be naked, we're going to let guilt, shame, and embarrassment be the boundaries of our thoughts. And I don't think that we should just say whatever we want. I do feel like these things help us consider others. Like, I don't want to say something mean and then I'll feel guilty because I hurt somebody that I love. So I do think that outwardly it could be a protector for others, but I do feel that if we don't ever spend time with, if we don't ever give ourselves permission to let these thoughts come out, then we will always be guilty at ourselves. And at least when you're guilty or ashamed or embarrassed outwardly, you can ask for forgiveness or ask to fix things outwardly, but if you never do it with yourself, then you're always going to be ashamed of yourself. You're going to be guilty at yourself, and you're going to be embarrassed of yourself. And what an exhausting life is it to always be embarrassed at yourself, or guilty at yourself, or shameful towards yourself, which then makes me think about this framework that I use with some athletes. You said the word acceptance, and you have to either accept or not accept, and if you don't accept it, at least you saw it in front of you and you take the next action. But journaling does put you, and the framework that I use is like a compass, and then you start at the top with awareness, which takes you into compass/wheel. So awareness takes you into acceptance takes you into attitude, and then attitude takes you into action. And whenever we are at the acceptance part and we haven't accepted whatever we have become aware of, the attitude towards anything becomes negative, which therefore the action becomes also negative. And so that's when, like, perhaps anger, jealousy, bitterness goes from, it's just because you didn't accept it, so this is your attitude towards it, and then your action outwardly is going to be aligned with this. And so a way for me to understand if I have accepted something or I haven't is I check my attitude. And if my attitude is not good, then I haven't accepted that. If my attitude is good, I have landed at acceptance. But trying to move from acceptance into what's next without fully understanding that, why should I accept it? Why shouldn't I accept it? Because you can also not accept it, but then that may keep your attitude in a certain voltage, and then your next action determines, well, after my action, I come back to awareness, and now will I accept this new reality after the cycle? But maybe we can dive into each one of those words at different episodes, but there is something about when we journal and when we are naked in our thoughts, we are accepting ourselves at the fullest. And I really choose to believe that if we learn to accept ourselves fully, we start to almost tippy-toe into how God feels towards us. And so it's really difficult to believe that anything other than us accepts us fully if we don't accept ourselves fully. And so the reality is God accepts you all the time, but you're going to miss that if you even can't accept yourself, you know? And so I think acceptance is such a powerful ingredient to be able to emotionally find equilibrium and then deal with relational stuff outwardly, and then character, which is a little bit more inwardly. But you said something really interesting when you were talking to me about the journaling, that it was in your process, and I see this when I put this in the framework, is more like in the awareness process before we go in any direction. It was like you are aware that you like the best way possible. And the person that you were talking to, I think, may have proposed, is it the easiest way or the best way? And so then the question became, do I look for the easiest way or do I look for the best way? Tell me more about which one did you choose?
I chose the best way because sometimes for me, the most efficient way isn't necessarily the easiest way. Like trying to grow, for example, if that's my outcome that I'm looking for me, journaling isn't the easiest thing to do, but it's the best thing to do.
And so when you had to consider between, do I prefer the easiest way or do I prefer the best way? Um, I think what I heard you say in our conversation was that you prefer the best way, even if it doesn't mean it's the easiest way, right? And then that led you to try to figure out like the best way. In order to figure out if it's the best way, there needs to be some sort of measurement. So I did it, I got to it, but it maybe wasn't the best way. And maybe from your science background, it makes you want to create almost like algorithms or formulas so that if I can plug in journaling, what is coming out on the other side. And so how are you, not necessarily that we need an answer to this, but how do you try to understand this internal desire to want the best way and want a formula, but reflecting doesn't really give you an input-output type of practice? Or what questions do you have with regards to journaling? Like how can it be easier to accept that? I don't know, any of those.
I think what made it easier for me, not that it's easy, um, is thinking, because the wall I was coming to was I didn't know what to write. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I started thinking of it as you're just reflecting on your day, so I did try to take the approach of maybe it's at the end of the day or maybe it's in the morning when I reflect on the day before or at the end of the day so I can reflect on the day that just happened, is what are some things that happened throughout the day that maybe I thought was good or what I thought needs help or whatever. I think that made it so that I almost constantly had a prompt. I think a big part of we're not like waymakers here in this situation. Like we're not the only people who journal or want to journal or think that journaling is good. So I think that's where a lot of those like pre-made journals where there's already prompts written so that it makes it easier for someone. But I thought maybe that would be a good thing for me. But I also don't like the fact that it's so structured. It's like this May 13th. What does May 13th want to ask me? And if I don't want to talk about that, then I don't want to answer that particular question that might be already. And yeah, because I had tried to do like reflect on my day bullet points so that it wouldn't be so much like narrative, because then I thought that maybe that was taking too long or something. And then so bullet points of reflection, bullet points of gratitude, because we know gratitude is so important. And then like I almost made it like a prayer journal where it's like these are the people or things I want to pray for, and then sign off. But then I fell off of that because it was taking me so long. Like I don't know.
What you thought was the easy way became the harder way.
Like it turned so difficult because then I was turning into three things. So I went like 0 to 100. I went to write something down to write 3 categories of things every single day. For someone who like couldn't even was at 0 minutes, I tried to go to like however many minutes.
Interesting. What if you just went for 5 minutes regardless?
Yep, that's
where you landed.
Yeah. I was looking at it as what if it was a certain time of day that's easier for me? Because I tried like at night before going to bed, couldn't do it. Tried in the morning, don't feel like I have time for it. Midday, definitely don't have time for it. But every season of our lives, our schedules are so different. So my brain looks for a consistent, something I can do unreasonably 365 days. But my schedule is not going to be the same every single day. So I can't look at it as every morning, every afternoon, every night, if every day is going to be different, unless I'm strict with my boundaries around that. And that's probably where I lack. Yeah, boundaries are not easy.
So I have attempted, because there's times, although people say that like I am a master at journaling, or I don't even know if it's at journaling, but at the habit of journaling, uh, there's days where I'm there and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go through, because once I get going, I know that, for example, I always say thank you for my four people: mom, dad, Pao, and my wife. And those are the four people that every prayer I'm trying to pray for them, to be grateful for them, and become aware of things that they do for me that my life wouldn't be able to cope without. Um, and so then I know that once I'm getting there, there's times where I'm like, oh, it's four of them. I don't want to go through each one of them.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get to me, or like say what I feel or what I.
Yeah.
And then I have four other people that have been almost like I feel convicted to drop, and so it's Nell, it's my cousin Mariela's daughter, it's Jairo, and it was my aunt, and now it's Vale. And so then even as I'm writing, I'm like, well, I can't leave this reflection moment without praying for them. And so there's been moments where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do instead. I'm gonna do the bullet points. And so like instead of writing, I'll just go like, this is who I'm thinking about and praying for. You know what they need. I don't have to say anything. And I don't know why I don't feel like I leave those full. I feel like I don't know, like it feels half-assed. And I don't know what it is, but I've tried it, and not just with like these specific 8 people, but it's also like pray for like Livingstones and pray for ballers and BRS, and so like it's so much easier to just write the entity and then move on. Like God knows that, and there's something about just writing line and whatever's coming with a full sentence and a full thought that it leaves me. I walk out of that space feeling better. And I don't know what it is, but there is a, I don't think we think in bullet points. We think in full out sentences,
Yeah.
full feeling, and to fully become one with this journal, you have to act the way that you act internally. And I think there's something about that. And I think the other thing that you talked about was how do you like go from discipline to habit to like lifestyle, or like how to integrate it. I do think that there is a character development part of this, that you have two options. You either put that thing into your schedule and dedicate 5 to 15 minutes no matter what, because at the end of like our schedules do change a lot, but we do have control over our night, and we do have control over our morning, at least 15 minutes, regardless of how it goes. And so we either turn it into like on schedule, like a work schedule. I was telling you, like if I put that I have a one-on-one, I'm not gonna like, should I go, should I not go? Like no, I'm putting it. So this is a one-on-one with Andres, and I better show up for Andres, because I love Andres. And then so there's that option, and so we either do that, or we come across the worst version of our life, or we come across a really broken version of ourselves, and that will take you to journaling. And I came across it by the worst version, and so I think we will land at it regardless, but I do think it's a character development in which like, do we develop ourselves, or do we let something outside of us develop us? But I do feel that it's like, for me, I hope to find a way to help others. Don't put your hand on the fire to know that it burns. It saves you pain. It saves you an injury, and I think trying to help people do that. But at the end of the day, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force the horse, one, to drink, or to have appetite, or to be thirsty. Um, and yeah, I really do think that the only way around it is the same thing. Like, it's not like we wanted to be fit for soccer and go to run, like, but we did it because on the other side. But I think there was still a responsibility outward, and I don't think we help ourselves. Or I don't think we have enough communities that encourage, or education systems that encourage being accountable to yourself. And we create everything that, like, oh, I gotta go to school because my parents want me to go to school. I gotta get the English homework for the English teacher. I gotta play soccer for my coach. I gotta do all these things that are so outwardly. And then when you remove all these things, you have zero appetite for responsibility because you've never been responsible just for you. And I think that's dangerous. I think it also hits on the infinite versus finite. We have created an entire universe of being accountable for everything outside of us, which is a finite relationship, versus our relation to ourselves, which is more infinite. And it's just, anytime we choose finite over infinite is going to be dangerous, I would say, to our spirit. Yeah.
So I know that journaling, like you just said, I think you're top journaler or writer. How does that tie into emotional and relational and character? I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but how does that tie in, and what are some things that break down those pillars even further?
What I've learned most through journaling is that there's some sort of supernatural power in being aware, and just knowing all the things that are surrounding you when you've made a decision, when somebody else has made a decision, without even going into the rest of the cycle of, like, accepting, attitude, action, like, just starting with aware. And I don't know if there's been moments in which, and I've shared with you, like, having a difficult time with sexuality, or like being, I don't know if I would say addicted to pornography, but having normalized pornography. And when I didn't want to have that be part of my life, awareness comes in when I become aware of when is it that I start to take steps in the direction of landing in a pornography website. And so maybe it's a text from somebody that I wanted to be with. Maybe it's a post that I saw on a social media platform. Maybe it's a commercial. Maybe it's a Netflix show. Maybe it's, so awareness when I'm journaling, and I say, for example, like, I hate that I landed on this page. And then it allows me to, what happened before that? And then it helps me become more honest to myself and try to find what was the thing which ignited this. That if I don't do that, I'm not gonna land at the end of this journey that I didn't want to land. And the way I've heard it articulated best is that we are strongest at our first step than in the last step. On the last step, we're so vulnerable. We've lost all of our ability to make a decision. In our first step, we're still strong, like turning off Instagram or TikTok or a social media platform. Like, being able to shut that down will save me from getting there, and I'm stronger than by the time I'm in this cycle. So, and that's one example, but it could be in any example when it comes to creating a healthier reality for yourself. And it can be like from being an athlete to understanding, why am I playing less, or why am I mad that this player is getting more playing time than me? And then you just go into this world of, well, okay, what am I doing that perhaps, what can I do that perhaps can get me closer? Like, are you asking your coach questions? Are you asking that player questions? Or are you just continuing to create separation and bitterness towards them? And for me, that's something that like you inevitably start to look for answers and questions as I start journaling, and so I genuinely feel that the awareness process is really what opens the doors for you to be able to heal. It's like when you go to the doctor and you have pain somewhere, uh, they they don't just look at the pain in that place. They look at the totality. They still take your pulse. There's still maybe blood work. And like, what does blood work have to do with my shoulder? Or what does blood work have to do with this part of my body? You have to take full awareness of everything else before you take action. So I think that's what journaling does. That then and then it reminds you that like you have choice. You get to choose the next action, and I feel like when you journal, it's almost like you come face to face with yourself, and you're like, okay, well, I didn't want to land here, and if I really didn't want to land here, why am I still landing here? And just the awareness of that helps you start to question where you want to take it from here. Something that I feel is really important is accountability. And I do feel that accountability from the outside helps. So if it was like, and I don't know, like I'm trying to think like when you're trying to improve your journaling, if it would be helpful for me to be hold you accountable, but at least a person to hold you accountable that you have to like either text them, send them a check mark, whatever it may be, because there's something about accountability that pulls you to at least get in the habit of journaling, or any habit. And so those are things that like I've realized through the process of journaling. But when it comes to relational intelligence, emotional intelligence, and character development, I think what journaling has activated is each one of them has, I've realized that each one of them is driven by a specific principle. And relational intelligence is driven by love, emotional intelligence is driven by hope, and character development is driven by faith. And relational intelligence, through journaling, realized that there's a relationship between me and me. And it's not until I learn to love Andres that I don't become capable of loving outwardly at the highest level. And if you miss the opportunity to love yourself, your relational intelligence will always be limited. And then emotional is connected to hope, in the sense that there's sometimes that I dive into my journal so hopeless, and I come out with this supernatural realization that like, oh, it's not as bad as I think. Like when I'm journaling about these people that have a difficult time with their life in this moment for physical reasons, I leave that journal entry like, I'm out here complaining about bills, and my friend Jairo doesn't know if this is the day that he's gonna get a call and say that they have the heart ready, and he has to be 4 hours. He always has to be in a 4-hour radius to a hospital, because, and I learned this today, when they find a heart, they can't take out the heart. The heart can't be out of the person who died for more than 4 hours for it to be a
Viable.
yes, what is it?
Viable.
A viable heart for a transplant. And when I'm here thinking in like months, he's thinking in 4-hour increments, you know? And that's just one example of how walking into journaling makes me aware of others and reminds me of where I'm at. And I leave that journal entry with more hope. And and there's something about when you have hope, you have the capacity to have more emotional equilibrium. When you're hopeless, your emotions take over you. And so hope is the one that connects the emotions. And then faith with character, like, I think we over spiritualize faith. And what character development does is it makes you do things without knowing what the outcome is going to be. And so, for example, when you set an alarm because you want to get up early, that's an act of faith that you're going to make it to the next day. But it's an act of character development that you're putting yourself in a place that you will be developed for a future that you don't know if it's going to be there. You get fit for your soccer team out of faith that you're going to touch the field. But you might get fit, but another player might be fitter and better. So it's all an act of faith, and everything that you do character-wise is, I think there's a part of the Bible that says faith without action is dead. So you need to combine faith and action in order to prove that you have some type of faith, or that your faith is real. And I think character development is so grounded in your ability to take action for the healthiest version of yourself, a future healthiest version of yourself, and that is faith. And so I have to have faith, which I think it could be the hardest part. I have to have faith that I'm going to sit and journal for 20 minutes and a better version is going to come out on the other side. Not of those 20 minutes, but the accumulation of 1,000 journal entries. And out of those 1,000 journal entries, 20 of them are going to be life-changing, but I need 1,000 to get the 20. And that is character development. But having faith that those 20 are going to come out is actually the differentiator. And so I think these three elements live in those, in hope, in love, and in faith. And I think those are the strongest virtues in human existence that if we can be aware of and then use in our advantage and in the advantage of everybody outside of us, I think we tap into a beautiful expression of humanity. That was a long answer to the journaling question, but yeah. As we finish, what are some things that are staying with you, or maybe like is there a question that you just want to leave with for yourself, for me, for the world, or just a takeaway?
I guess the question that came up when you were just talking was, do you ever feel like when you do journal and you're feeling hopeless, like, are you diminishing the way you feel by comparing it to how others are experiencing their lives? Or is it a matter of perspective of, because it feels a little like you're diminishing your own experiences because somebody's going through something more difficult. I think as it's a helpful tool to help you out of that space of hopelessness. So I don't know, like, I feel like that's just something someone who's listening might think.
Yeah.
Especially when you feel like you're going through a hard experience and then someone tells you, well, kids in Africa are starving. Like, you know, they always told you that growing up when you left food on your plate to like almost guilt you into doing something.
That was
I guess
actually
manipulating.
Yeah, that was actually one of my latest journal entries that I started to see that pattern, and I was like, what's the point of all of this? Like, is it fair for me to leave feeling better because somebody else is worse? And that is a question that I dive into, and dropping that question allows me to realize that maybe I don't fully have an answer, but when I do leave, I remember that I cared for somebody. And so it becomes almost like a recipe for, I don't think that you should only evaluate who's worse so that I feel better, but I do think it's an ingredient that helps you be grateful. It shouldn't be the entire meal, but that's like the salt. and then you leave like, I prayed for somebody that I care for. There's something in me that cares for somebody else. That's another ingredient, you know. And so giving yourself permission to feel that I have questions, I have answers, I have things to celebrate. So when I think of my of my cousin, knowing that I have my mom and my dad to still see, it gives me a reason to, and it regardless of comparing it, it's not that seeing a worse situation makes me feel better about a better situation. It just reminds me that there is a finite time that I have with my parents. So make the most out of it, because that situation that my cousin is in will be my situation one day. And one thing that came up in the conversation with my friend today was that when his brother passed away from heart problems, he was walking with him the entire journey, and it's not that it didn't hurt him, but it hit him less difficult. But it was less difficult for him because he knew that he supported him as much as he could. And so I would like to land at the place in which, when I no longer have mom and dad, I made the most out of this relationship. But that means that today I have to acknowledge that I still have them, and knowing that you still have them connects you to an action, which is text them,
Yeah.
pray with them. And when you connect it to an action, there's hope, whether you want to call it hope or not. I'm hoping that we will connect today and I'm gonna get a text back, because one day I will text them and I'm not gonna get a text back. One day I'm gonna call them and they're not gonna be reachable. And so I don't think that we use it as manipulation to call ourselves ungrateful, but I do think it stirs perspective.
Yeah.
And again, perspective goes back to just awareness. But it is a question that I think in our hopelessness is really destabilizing. That what does it mean that I feel better after I see how bad others have it, right? And the other side of that coin is that you do have it pretty good, and checking yourself is important. So I think as much as the people in Africa comments, it gets overused, there is some truth to that. That we forget in the midst of our hopelessness that there's so many things going on right now that where we are, it could be worse. And then it also works the other way, like don't get too like when you're too happy, just know that you're gonna off balance that. There's somebody happier than you. Because if you also just live at the fact that like I'm at my best reality right now, you might become complacent. And so then it becomes, how do you balance, which is a whole other podcast, how do you balance being completely comfortable with where you are today but still have a desire to grow without that equating I'm not happy with today. And that's a whole other
It's a rabbit hole.
But yeah, that is a very good question that I think 2 days ago I was writing and asking in my journal. Cool.
I heard you.
What is that? You heard me?
Yeah.
You heard me? Yeah. All right. All right. We're gonna wrap this up. I don't have any specific takeaways other than actually I do have a takeaway. The finding the best way versus finding the easiest way. I think that it's a reality that we seek. I think that our flesh and bone wants the easiest way, and we should acknowledge that. Like, we want to find the easiest way possible. And then there's this like spiritual side of us that wants to find the best way. And how do we merge those together to find the both easiest and best way, and so that you land in the center? I think that is when our divinity and our humanity come together. And the most effective, simplest version of us comes out, but I don't think it comes out if we like, no, I don't want the easiest way, or like I don't care about the best way. I just need a way. I think is and that's why I think Jesus said, "I am the way." All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much, Mel, for having these conversations with me, in which I think it has to be vulnerable to talk about things that maybe you're still processing. Um, and that is a beautiful thing that people will be able to relate to you more. And if you're not relatable, I don't think you can really do anything on this earth. um, Thank you for loving me and spending time with me. I love you, and I'll see you guys next episode.